Here now to go in depth with us, former LA Times reporter Irene Garcia, now of Judicial Watch, and Javier Manjarres from the Shark Tank blog. Want to make sure I get this right, shark-tank.com.
Yeah, and the last is pronounced Manjarres, but I'm not going to hold you to that.
Let me try again. Manjarres.
Close enough.
Close. Well, you know, my 2 years of Spanish in college failed me a little bit, but in any language, we have a crisis on our southern border. What is your latest perspective on what is transpiring there?
Well, like I said before, Obama is completely involved here. There's been collusion here with the influx of immigrants coming in. I mean, this crisis, so to speak. There's no doubt. Now reports are coming out that yes, there was involvement with the administration. Look, this is all his fault. Failed policies from the past 7-8 years. He has failed to enforce border security, and we saw this happening. Senator Marco Rubio foretold this years ago, that if we don't fix this immigration policy, if Barack Obama does not enforce the existing laws on the books, that we're going to have this type of incentivized immigrant coming over and looking for a gravy train. And Obama is the ringleader. He's driving the caboose here.
Irene, you joined us last week. Your role as a reporter, it seems now that other media outlets have kind of caught up with you.
Yeah,
because you told us a week ago that the people coming in all weren't little children or mothers with babes in their arms. What more have you learned about the folks coming in?
Exactly. Well, Judicial Watch has an office in Arizona, and we've been in touch with Border Patrol officials who have contacted us to tell us that there's a holding center in Nogales where the teenagers that are at this holding center are, people. They're not these little kids that you see in the media and seek of a better life here. So there's a lot more to the story than what the mainstream media is reporting, undoubtedly.
And another story coming out, Javier, Henry Cuellar, member of Congress, a Democrat from Texas, a guy who wants to find some sort of solution. He went down to visit one of the detention areas. The administration said, oh, no pictures, no comments. In fact, that's been the edict coming from the administration to every member of Congress. That's more than passing curious.
Well, obviously they're hiding something. They don't want the public to find out. They're see for themselves what's going on down there. Look, and I find it very hard to believe that tens of thousands of these illegal immigrant children migrating over, none of them have been tapped by the drug cartels to bring over as mules, to bring over drugs in any which way. I don't see how that can't happen. We see it being that it's been reported they use any which way vehicle to bring drugs into the United States. I don't see how this isn't happening, how it's not being reported.
Well, Irene, something else happening this week, Vice President Joe Biden going down to Central and South America here. One of the complaints we've heard from Republicans is that the administration has not done enough to send a clear message to these countries that we don't have open arms for these folks who are coming here illegally, specifically in the countries of Brazil, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala. He also says he's going to address misinterpretations about U.S. immigration policy. Do you think we can honestly expect anything from the administration that's going to send a clear message to these folks to tell them to stop coming?
No, I don't think that we can expect that realistically. And I'll tell you, we talked about this last week when I was here. The news publications in Central America, where these countries, where these kids are coming from, getting back to that, are quoting on the record their foreign diplomats in this country saying on the record in these news publications that they have these deals with immigration authorities in the United States. And for instance, the foreign diplomat, the consul from Honduras, saying that if these kids have their original birth certificates, their entry into the U.S. will be expedited. I mean, these are deals that are being made behind the scenes, behind the backs of the American public, and the administration's denying it. So in the case of these other Latin American countries, I can't imagine that it would be any different.
Irene, as we were talking with you last week, you made historical reference to the Mariel boat lift that involved Cubans that, if memory serves, Castro in the late 70s essentially emptied his prison. Now, that had great political fallout for a young Arkansas governor by the name of Bill Clinton, because one of the holding facilities was Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. Politically, for governors of the border states, for members of the House of Representatives, what do you see happening?
Well, I mean, they're using now these holding facilities. They're now using military bases as holding facilities that are not being, the public's not being informed. And we got information from a high-level authority, and we put it on our website, on our blog. I wrote the story. Fort Bliss is being used. It has not publicly been identified as a facility being used. They're busing people in at night and unloading the buses in a hangar, so a hangar at Fort Bliss. in Texas, and so this is going on now nationwide, and we have high-level sources inside Homeland Security now informing us of some of the stuff that's going on and the military facilities they're using, and people, the general public is not happy about that.
And anytime, Javier, you have this situation where there's a disconnect between the way events are portrayed in the dominant media culture and the reality on the ground, that can lead to political difficulties. Now, we made mention of what happened with the Mariel boat lift, but it's worth noting that the Cuban immigration experience is very different from what we're seeing right now on our southern border in terms of Castro taking over and the communists fleeing communism, looking for political exile. In terms of politics, you mentioned the name of Marco Rubio earlier. In all candor, when he became part of the Gang of Eight for the, quote, amnesty bill, do you believe that Senator Rubio, if he had it to do over again, would step back from involvement on that bill?
I think he would, because he already has. He's pulled back. Remember, he was for the bill. It was a one-size-fits-all. Now he's for piecemeal approach. He's been saying we have to work through with the House, spice it up, tear it up, and see what comes out of the House and come to an agreement with immigration reform. But it needs to be conducted. But look, I said earlier, he sounded this alarm several years back on what was coming because of Obama's failed immigration policy. And to her point, as far as Judicial Watch also has reported that Hezbollah has been all over the border. So again, this is back to the immigration issues, back to the border security. It's all about national security issue. When we have Hezbollah running rampant along the border, all bets are off.
Border security is national security, and now with this coming full cycle in Iraq, now in one of the stories that led Newsmax.com over the weekend, you had a situation where one of the terrorists we released from a base in 2009 said to those supervising him, the Americans, hey guys, I'll see you in New York. So that reinforces this. Do you see this, Irene, as a wake-up call? I think the American people are fairly awakened. Is this going to wake up as we take a look at the picture of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader who said he'd see guys in New York? Will this wake up Washington?
I certainly hope so, but I don't think this particular administration is insisting and bent on trying to befriend the entire world. I was in Guantanamo twice to monitor the military commissions. Judicial Watch sends a representative to every hearing, and that's the word there. We want to befriend them. Members of the military telling us that the prisoners inside these camps are living better than they are, and they're deployed. So I don't see it happening in this administration, no.
Well, Irene, let me ask you about that, since you have that firsthand experience. When we talk about the situation in Guantanamo Bay, clearly that was what was discussed as one of the reasons why Bo Bergdahl was released here, but nobody seems to be happy with what happens in Guantanamo Bay. What is the alternative, since you've been there?
I don't know that I have a solution to that. I think that it's difficult, and I do a lot of Spanish media on this, and a lot of the leftist groups that I shared a tent was there, the ACLU, the Human Rights Watch, that they should be tried in civilian courts. I'm not an attorney, I have a background in journalism. I don't know that that's the solution. But the Obama administration got an old federal facility in Illinois, and with the intention of bringing Guantanamo inmates, and even the Democrat legislators there were like, no, wait a minute, don't bring them here. So nobody wants them, no member of Congress I think is willing to transfer these prisoners to their district.
You ask a good question, John. Back in the days when I was still involved in actual policy, when this question came up, I suggested if the intent is to bring these detainees to sovereign American soil, we ought to take them to one of the Aleutian Islands, that chain of islands right there off Alaska, closer to Russia. And we should put them there away from their tropical environment and with a fair degree of lack of creature comforts. New reports coming out that this whole swap was seen on cable television by the detainees who are watching the World Cup matches and seeing all of that. And it's just extremely frustrating. As I said often during my times in Congress, I don't believe that any one of these detainees should be better clothed, better housed, better fed than an American fighting man or woman. And yet we're seeing this to such a degree. But I want to come back politically because it seems that a lot of people look at this question and they embrace what I call the myth of the monolith. the notion that if you have a Hispanic surname, well, then you're instantly for illegal immigration. Javier, you monitor politics all the time, especially in the state of
Listen,
Florida.
I've been called an Uncle Juan because I don't toe that line. Because I'm Hispanic, I've been told to my face by pundits, political pundits, Hispanic political pundits, that you're an embarrassment to the Hispanic community because you're Hispanic. You need to toe that line. It's not true. You know, I believe in the rule of law. My parents came here from Colombia legally. They followed all the steps. They came, and you know, and unfortunately, a lot of people from other countries, they want to come here and live the American dream. But look, every country has a law, and these people leave these lawless regimes and governments because there is no law there, and they come here just for that. So it's kind of like it's interesting how they would paint Hispanics just because they don't agree with their immigration reform policy as being racist almost, or like I said, Uncle Juans.
Irene, let's turn to you, because it seems to me the people left out of this debate are people who do immigrate to the United States legally. Right. I would imagine regardless of nationality, there's some people mighty upset about what is going on right now.
Yes, I agree. I'm a similar situation to Javier. My parents came during the revolution from Cuba. I was born and raised here, and I think that the open borders movement has lost sight of one very crucial fact, which is there is still a legal way to come to this country. There is still a system, and there's law and order, but it must be followed, and they just want the masses to come, and yeah, we don't agree with that either. I don't agree with that.
Irene, Javier, we both appreciate your perspectives on this. John and I learn a lot as we're here in the center of the anchor desk. Another disturbing development, the fact that Border Patrol officers are now pressed into babysitting. At least those are the press accounts. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the psychology of parents abandoning their children. Is some of that going on? What is the price psychologically, not only on American citizens, but on these children being used as pawns on our southern border? We're going to talk about that, and as always, we welcome your comments on this story or others. You can reach out to us via Twitter at NewsmaxTV, #AmericasForum. There's also email and Facebook.com/Newsmax. We're coming right back.